I had a few people who had schedule conflicts today, but wanted to have this. So it is going to be recorded. If you have questions or anything throughout the training today, you can always drop it in the chat. You can unmute. We're going to have some time where you can practice with the tool as well as ask questions. So, all right, we're going to get going. So our focus for today is a tool called SchoolAi, which is a brand new premium AI tool that we have here in BCSC, and it's pretty fantastic. So I hope that you're excited. I hope that it's going to be something that you can utilize in your role. It is something that we wrote a grant for, and it got funded through the grant. And we were very particular about the tool that we applied for, just because we want it to be something that could be flexible for a variety of roles. So whether you're a teacher, a guidance counselor, principal, academic coach, teacher assistant, there's a little bit of everything in this tool for everyone. So our game plan for today is really more of an introduction to the tool. So I'm going to show you ways that you can sign in, some helpful tools to get you started, give you some time to practice with that, as well as show you some examples. So I have lots of examples out there from ways that BCSC staff are using it to really just examples that you can pull from within the platform. So you really don't have to be reinventing the wheel every single time you have a question or think that SchoolAi can help you. Chances are someone has made something that you can remix and adapt and leverage, which is a nice time saver. We all know we need more time and time given back to us for other things. And this tool is really great at helping in that area. So that is our focus for today. And I had someone who just jumped in, so I'm going to drop the slides in there one more time. But that is our focus, and SchoolAi is the tool we're going to be using. So if you do want to follow along with me today, I do recommend that you open up another tab so you can pull up SchoolAi. No pressure to do that, but it does make it a little bit easier if you want to do some of the hands-on tasks and tinker with it. So, as you know, my little space theme here, and SchoolAi has a lot of space info. We have an astronaut here in Indiana from Columbus, so that's kind of cool. I am not an astronaut, but that's AI's reimagining me as an astronaut, and you can always tell it's an AI-generated image because it always does something weird with your eyes. So that is actually a picture that I made with SchoolAI. I uploaded a picture of myself and had it make an AI version of myself. So if you want a good laugh, I can show you how to do that. But we're going to be exploring some of the more helpful features of the tool today, but it can make AI-generated images for you. So, out of curiosity, I would love for you to pick one of the two questions on the screen, and you can drop those in the chat. And really what I would love for you to do in dropping those in the chat, let me adjust my slide a little bit. I hid the wrong one because we are virtual today. All right, so you can answer question 1 or question 2. So question 1 is, what's a part of your day that you wish you had more time for? Or you can answer question 2. So you have options here. So if an AI tool could help you or your students with one thing, what would you want it to do? And I'm asking you these questions so I can get an idea of where to direct the session today. So if you have a specific thing that you came here for, now's the time to share it. So if you want to put it in the chat, you can do that. If I have anyone who's feeling bold and brave and you want to unmute, that's an option as well. Thank you, Jessica. So needing more time to plan and grade. Yes. Grading was something that I was always so slow at doing. So any time to help with that would have been great. Differentiating lessons. Absolutely. And there's a shorter version of the slide link too, that I just dropped in there. If I had to say an example of something, I think that I would love to have more time to interact with students one-on-one or the staff that I support. So if there's any way I can free myself up from some of the administrative type of things, more laborious things that take up time that aren't the most rewarding parts of the day, but are things I have to get done, that is something that I would love to have more adjustments and time for. Good, Pam, good question. I think it depends on the student-facing side of this. There are some avenues for you to use. I think it just really depends on the age of your students. Maybe upper grade life skills could work. but I definitely think there's some teacher sides of this that could certainly help you. So that's actually a really good segue into what I'm talking about next. So thank you all for those of you who shared. If you're like, I'm just wanting to hear all of the things about this tool, that also works out. So we're going to be talking about the different parts of SchoolAi, and it is a tool that is a teacher-facing AI tool as well as a student one. And there's not a lot of tools that we allow students to use in BCSC, the student side, where they can access AI for lots of different reasons. Data privacy being a really big one, safety, and SchoolAi does have that student-facing side. But there's some really awesome teacher-focused pieces of SchoolAi that I think you're going to be excited about. And that's where you can save a lot of time, where you can maybe give yourself some time back, quickly differentiate materials, adjust them, and it can help you write IEPs, behavior intervention plans, all of the different things. And if you're wondering, like, oh, well, those are things that they tell us, has sensitive student data that we shouldn't put into an AI tool. SchoolAi is what we call a wrapper AI tool. So it uses a base model, large language model that uses ChatGPT and Claude, which are two of the big competitors. But what it does is it filters the content. So whatever you put into SchoolAi is never being fed to these bigger large language models. So it's not training its models on whatever you type in and what your students type in. On the same note, it's never sharing any of that data. So unlike some of the other AI tools that are out there, this is a tool that does have a data privacy agreement, that it protects your data, doesn't sell it. So if you enter in information about your students, say to write an IEP or to track some of that data, it's not moving outside of SchoolAi, and they're not selling it to other people, unlike some of the other AI tools that are out there. So that's something that I get asked about a lot is, can we enter in some of that information into these AI tools? With this one, you can. With other tools like ChatGPT, no, but SchoolAi, you can. All right. So I think one of the really cool ways that you can get familiarity with this tool is honestly just practicing using it as a student. And this is something that you can set up and have teachers use if you're someone who your learners or teachers, but it's also something if you're a classroom teacher, you can have your students use. But I think this gives you a feel for how this tool works and how it can be helpful for you. So I'm going to set a timer for about 4 minutes or so. And in those 4 minutes, I would love for you to interact with this particular SchoolAi chatbot that I set up for you. So with fall break being on the horizon, I set this one up to where it helps you plan a vacation. So if you're like me and you're not going anywhere for fall break, maybe this can help you envision a place where you would like to be. If you're still planning your trip, maybe this is helpful. But this particular link that I'm about to drop in will ask you to enter your name, and then you're officially into the SchoolAi space. All right. So it opens up SchoolAi. I'm just going to show you what it looks like real quick. We'll continue. And then it's just going to look like this. You don't have to change this code or anything. You just type in your name. If you want to remain a little anonymous, you don't have to put your full name. You can just put your first initial, whatever you would like it to be. And it's just going to give you a few minutes to plan a dream vacation and to see what SchoolAi is like on the student side. Okay. So I'm going to set a timer about 4 minutes, tinker with that. The link is in the chat. And when the timer is up, then I'm going to show you how we build in SchoolAi, how I set that up, and some of the other teacher time-saving pieces. All right, so timer is getting pulled up. And if you have questions, you can drop those in the chat and I'll answer those while you're tinkering. All right. If you are still planning out your dream vacation, that is okay. I am going to start to move us along, and you can always come back to that and continue your planning. But I want to show you some of the features in School AI. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of an idea of what it's like when you set up a space for a student to use. So you experienced it like a student, because I think one of the best ways to learn a tool is to practice with it hands-on. So if you want to use this with your students, that is one of the ways that experience can look, but it's also very customizable. So you can make it aligned to very lengthy tasks, short tasks, projects, activities, topics that you're teaching. Really, the world is your oyster, and it's up to you what you want to do. So with that being said, I think it's helpful if we focus on just some of the initial vocab things to know when it comes to School AI. So like I said, we have School AI Premium. If you want to sign in to the tool, you just use your BCSC Google account. There's a little sign up Google button, click that, and you're in. If for some reason it's not showing you the premium on your account, send me an email and let me know. We had one user that for some reason it was not applying her account correctly, and it was an easy fix, but I'm hoping that doesn't happen to anyone else. But if it does, please let me know, because you should have premium. And when you sign into School AI, there's a couple of things I want to point out. And if I keep looking up, it's because I have two screens right now. One of them is like way higher than the other. I don't think I noticed that until I'm like on camera, that I keep looking up, and probably looks like I'm really lost in thought, but it's me not having my screens at eye level as I probably should. So here is what you'll probably see when you sign in to School AI. And I have like 9 million tabs open, so I apologize for that. I'm going to move in and out of some of them so it's a little bit less chaotic and easy to see. So with School AI, there's a couple of things to know. So there is this new interface that's called 2.0, but it's not going into effect until the second semester. And from what I've gathered, it's probably not going to go into effect until about April, May. So we have a long way until you need to get familiar with the 2.0 interface. If you want to tinker with that now, absolutely can. If you like it more than this classic interface I'm going to show you today, you can go for it. I have some people who do that. It's fine. But the only thing is that with it being in beta, there's a likelihood that it's going to be a little bit buggier than what the classic interface might be. So full transparency, I wanted to share that. And if you wanted to check that out, it's just that little blue button at the top of your screen. But where I'm going to be spending time today is in this classic interface. So when you first sign in, there are a couple of different keywords to know when it comes to School AI. And on this main screen is where we can see some of those. So Launchpad here is just your main home screen. So if you're wanting to see some of the different things, good ideas and inspiration, this is where you can go and do that. At the top of your screen, we have tools. So tools and assistants are really just teacher focused. These are things that only staff members have access to. So tools, these are basically custom AI bots that are designed to do a very specific task. And all of these ones on the tools menu are really quick tasks. So these bots are all trained to do something like make a worksheet or make a multiple choice quiz or level a text or translate it, do a lesson plan, make a rubric, so that every single one of these is custom aligned to that task. So this is kind of nice if you know you want to save time, you have an idea in mind, and you don't want to sit there and go back and forth with ChatGPT and say, make a lesson plan for 5th grade, take on the role of this and this and this. This basically cuts out some of those prompting steps because it's already designed for education. And all you have to do is plug in a little bit of information. So if I wanted it to, make a vocab list for my students, I can put in words, I can upload a file if I need to, I can put in the topic. So let's do photosynthesis. I never taught science, so that was kind of bold for me to pick that particular topic, but let's do 11th grade. I'm going to leave the standards blank. You can add your own standards there. I can attach a vocab list if I need to, or a text if I wanted to read the text and pull vocab words out of that. And then what I can do is click generate. So as always, every AI tool is going to tell you that there's a possibility it's going to get something wrong. But here we go. So it's making this vocab list for me. It's all good to go. So if you're like, okay, what do I do with this now? This is where you have some different options. So whenever you make something in School AI, it always saves it as a file on the tools menu. So if I go further down, I can see here's a particular vocab list that it made for me. And then if I click this three dots button, I can rename it, I can duplicate it, I can copy these things elsewhere. So I'm in editing mode now. So if I didn't like all of those vocab words that it gave me, it's almost like I have my own document now within SchoolAi, and I can go through and change this. Like if I don't want this one to be on here, I can delete that. All right, I can go change this. And if I'm like, ooh, what if there's more features I want to add to this? What's this little AI tools button? So I can modify the text, I can translate it all right here if I need to, make it shorter, make it longer, change the tone, all these different things. I can add emojis if I want to, if you're an emojis person. And whenever I am finished with this vocab list, if I click export, here's where I have additional options. So I can move this all over into a Google Doc if I want to. With us being a Google district, that's a pretty nice thing to do because you know it's going to work really well on the students' Chromebooks. I can do a PDF and give it to my students in Canvas as well. PDFs play really nicely in Canvas. We do have Windows devices for staff, so you could do Microsoft Word. Now, students don't have Windows on their Chromebooks, but that is an option. And then I can even just, copy and paste this, do whatever I need to do. I could even share this with another teacher. So if I have a co-teacher that I play with and work with, this share link makes it so they can open this and edit this and revise it. So that's really what this tools menu is for in SchoolAi. It lets you create files and resources pretty quickly, and it's all designed for specific tasks. And if there's something that you really like, you can star it so it saves it to the top of your screen so you're not scrolling as much. And whenever you need to find something that you made, just scroll down the bottom of the page and then it shows that whole entire list. And there's all kinds of things on here. It's anything from a letter of rec to an agenda for a meeting, for a course outline, behavior intervention plans, all kinds of things on here, to jokes. There's some really funny dad jokes in there. Chris Sees, I know, is on here. He's like the king of telling hilarious dad jokes. So he can compare his jokes to the one that's on here and see if his are better. And if you see something and you're like, that's not quite the task that I needed to have done, you can even build your own. So if I wanted to build my own custom type of resource here, I can give it very specific instructions. So if I wanted this to maybe summarize meeting notes for me, if it's like a lengthy minutes of a meeting that I had to go to and I need to pull out the key themes and action items, I can upload it and say, pull out the action items from this, and it will do that. So this custom menu just lets you create things really, really quickly. So that's the tools side of SchoolAi. So back to my slides, I want to cover the other two things. So that's where we were just right here is tools. The other one is assistance. So the assistance space on SchoolAi, we're still in this top toolbar here. Assistance is kind of a little similar to tools, but also a little bit different in that these aren't designed for really quick tasks. It's not creating like a really quick document for you, a slideshow for you, or drafting an email for you. This is more like a thought partner and lengthier type of activity. So if you're maybe at the beginning of re-envisioning a unit that you're teaching, or need help thinking about, project-based learning, you're trying to weave that into a project you already have, or you want to revamp it, this is a really good way of doing that. And this is the menu where you can try those different things. So they have some built out here. There's even planning a field trip. I know when I planned those in the past, that's a lot of work and a lot of moving parts. And this really helps you think through all of the questions that you should be asking. There's even essay grading assistant. I know we have a few ELA teachers in here. This can be super helpful for that. But if I'm curious about either one of these, I just click chat, opens this, gives me some sample prompts that I can play with if I want to. But I'm just going to do, let's rethink my class routine. And it's going to go through some prompts. Again, I can type with my voice if I want to, if I'm in a hurry, or if that's easier for me to just, word vomit sometimes by speaking and venting about what I need help with my class routines versus typing. I can do that. I can also upload a unit plan or a sample of the slides that I've been doing, and it will guide me through that. And this is kind of nice in that over here, I can customize this, some information about me. So if I teach AP biology at the high school and I always want SchoolAi to be thinking through that lens, when I come to this assistance menu, this is where I can do that. I can say I teach AP biology, I have 4 class periods of it. A lot of my students are English language learners, and I want you to always have that lens when you respond. This is really where you're customizing that to your needs so that you don't have to type that out every single time. It's going to remember that. And then over here, if I ever want to go back and rename any one of these threads that I have, I can access it from there. But similar to the tools menu, if I scroll down, I can see more of these options, or I can always go through and click through these and continue. Now, I will say, whenever you go to the assistance menu, they do want you to check out the new interface. And a lot of these features, the tools and assistants, are baked into one interface in the new one. And I'll save some time at the end if you're curious about what that looks like and want to tinker with it. But I am just going to stick to the classic side of things today. The other buttons I want to point out on this top menu. So we have Organize, and Organize is all about resources that you find that you like. So if you're looking through and you see something that catches your eye and you're like, oh, this is great, but I don't have time to dig into that right now, you can always favorite it and save it. And it always shows up here on this Organize menu. You can even make different folders. Collections here are kind of like a folder. So I am a Taylor Swift fan, and I found these really funny Taylor Swift ones. So I saved those because I'm going to use it in a training, that I'm doing on Thursday, which is right before her new album comes out. So whenever I see something that I like, I just add it to a collection, save it, and it's there. Community, we're not going to cover that today, but if you are curious in seeing how other people are using SchoolAi, or if you're wanting to get ideas or troubleshooting, they have this really awesome knowledge base with lots of different resources, guides, slides, tips. That's a really good place to go. Okay. So the last key vocab word, so we covered tools, and then we looked at assistants, and these are both the teacher side of things. The last one, which brings in my space theme today, is a feature called Spaces. So Spaces in SchoolAi are the student-facing and teacher-facing side of things. And that's really what you experienced when I had you click that link and you started planning a dream vacation. So that's kind of where I would say the more advanced use of SchoolAi is. That's where you're setting up a custom AI bot that can be a tutor for students, that can give them feedback on drafts of an essay or help them brainstorm topics for an essay. It's that student-facing side of it to where they're using AI, but in a safe way. So it's nice because as a teacher, if you set up a space for your students to use, maybe it's an essay feedback space where they submit their draft of their paper and it's almost acting like a peer review. If students are typing something on there, you have a teacher view of everything that they're saying to that chat bot, and it's actually going to flag it and say, this student seems to be struggling, or this student seems to be having a hard time, or this student's doing a really good job and they feel like they're ready to go on their final draft. So it's kind of this nice teacher dashboard you get to see. But before we do that, I want to give you some examples on the teacher side of things, and then also give you a second to practice and play with the teacher side before I show you how to build things on the student side. Okay? So I got ahead of myself and was more in the platform than on my slides. But here's just, the view of the tools menu again, really focus on building actionable things for you, files, documents, and slides. And then assistants are more of those AI chatbots for your specific questions that are lengthier, can be a nice thought partner, more lengthy, type of activities and content. So if you're curious about how to use any of these tools, I would say, honestly, if you have a question or you're stuck or want to see a fresh idea, ask the AI bot. There are things that I know I never would have thought of on my own that sometimes I go to these tools for, and it's a nice way to think about something differently. But here's just ideas of different ways that teachers have used it here in BCSC. So, lesson plans for multi-step equations. We had a math teacher, algebra teacher using it for that. Review plan for AP US history. So it was a nice little outline that teacher used, and those teachers both used the tool button for that. Assessments and rubrics. I had a principal who was using this for creating some newsletter content that he put in Parent Square. And then we also had a primary grade teacher at one of our elementary schools who was talking about a new unit that they were doing, and even helped use SchoolAi to help write a message that she put in Parent Square that gave parents ideas of how they could help with their student at home in reading. And then there's just a lot of really good examples of how to use it for translating, ML, differentiating, all of those pieces. So what I'm going to do is give you a few minutes here. So if you're like, okay, I like this, but I don't know where to start, I have 4 different prompts on here on the screen that you can practice with. So pick one of these, or if you have a very specific task that you want to try out, go for it. But I'm going to give you about 5 minutes or so. And then when that 5 minutes is finished, we're going to move on to the student side of things and probably wrap up the whole training around 4:15, 4:20. Get you out of here before an hour is done, because I know a lot of you have places to be. but 5 minutes to practice and play. And if you are more wanting questions answered during this 5 minutes, I'll also be looking at the chat to answer questions. But 5 minutes, pick an option on the screen or choose your own adventure. All right, we are going to go ahead and keep on moving on. So hopefully that was a nice little intro to the teacher facing side of SchoolAi. And if anyone wants to share what tool that they use or something they found it to be helpful for, you can drop that in the chat. Or if you're like, I'm just tinkering, and if you have an idea that you want to use later on, or you tinker with it with students next week or on your own, let me know. I'm really trying to collect a lot of these ideas of how teachers are using these tools and how they're helpful so I can share them with other teachers and kind of spread the news around to everyone. Okay, so we looked at the teacher facing side of things, and now we're going to look at a lot of the student facing side of things. So helpful things to know here is with some of the student facing sides of things, there's some controls and settings. And I think honestly, this is where a lot of the magic happens with SchoolAi, is the student facing side of it, where it's a really nice time saver for you and a way to essentially clone yourself and be in multiple places in your classroom, but not also have to clone yourself. So the student facing side of things in SchoolAi are called spaces. So a space is like what you set up with a vacation planner, where you got to plan your vacation. And essentially, it's a chatbot that you're setting up for students to interact with. You can align it to a very particular activity, standards, a lesson you already have. It can also be very general. So I'm going to move away from my slides here for a second and just show you some of the cool things that you can do in student spaces. There's also some really nice integrations on the student spaces, and this is kind of what I was referencing in the chat. Some math teachers might really like some of these features, but this part I'm going to show you on the slide right now is in the 2.0 interface. So I can toggle that at the end if that's something that's of interest. But the student-facing side of SchoolAi is pretty cool. So that's where this spaces menu is. But also when you go to the Launchpad, so the main sign-in screen that it takes you to every single time when you sign into SchoolAi, this Find a Space is where you can also get there. It's also where you can start building your own. So from the Launchpad or from the Spaces menu is where you can get there. So if I click Spaces, Discover is where I can go and see lots of ones that are built up and ready for me already. So if I scroll further down, I can see these are some popular ones, the really popular ones. If I scroll down, I also see different people who are like featured creators. So someone who's a featured creator might work for SchoolAi, or they're a teacher who's produced and made some of these spaces that a lot of other teachers have used and rated to be helpful. So if you see someone who maybe teaches some of the similar grade levels or is in a similar role to what you do, you might want to click theirs. You can see some of the ones that they've made and give those a particular look and feel. So when you're getting started with these, I think some of the things that I find to be the most helpful are just starting with something simple for your students. Some of the ones that I really, really like are just these ones here at the top of the screen. These take about 2 seconds to set up, and they're amazing. So if you're just wanting to try this out with students in a really quick way, you could do a bell ringer or an exit ticket. And all you have to do is just give students a link or a code and they're in. And that's what they do, is the exit ticket, and you have all of this data. The other one that's really helpful, I think, is this one called Sidekick. And basically, this is a little personal AI assistant that your students have access to, and you can align it to your subject, or you could just make it pretty broad. So if a student gets stuck at any point during a lesson, maybe it's a work set time and you're floating around the room, this is something they can turn to and ask it for help. Now, if you're thinking, well, is it going to do their work for them? Is it going to give them all of the answers? This is an educational AI tool, so it is trained to not give students the answers. In fact, if they start asking for answers, it positively redirects them and says, how about we think about this instead? Or how about we do that? Anytime a student says, write the essay for me or answer this question for me, it will refuse to do that. So that's one of the things that comes up when I train people on this is, oh, is this a way for them to get all the answers? No, it's going to coach them, but it's not going to give them the answer outright. So if you see one that you like here, you can click it and check it out. There's even more this way. So all different kinds of ones over here. But I also want to point out, if you keep scrolling down the page, are these subject tutors. So I think these are also pretty spectacular. These are all aligned to particular content areas. So I was actually in an English classroom last week where the teacher was having students work on writing some different personal narratives, and she used Aaron the English tutor to help students in their drafts of those narratives. So she set this up, clicked it. You can preview it here. So if you're wanting to know what this looks like and get a feel for it as a student before you start using it, you can even have a whole entire chat thread here as a demo with this tool before you launch it to your students. So you can say like, okay, what do I want it to do? And again, it won't write the essay for you. But whenever I'm curious about using this tool for my students, this more options button is where I can customize it. So I can say, 10th grade English students who are writing a personal narrative essay. Give the students assistance in drafting and brainstorming their topics. Other students have a topic in first draft and need feedback. All right. You don't have to put these things in. This is just aligning it to more specifics if that is what you have. So whenever I am ready to go and use this with my students, I can favorite this so I can save it and access it later. But if I click launch, this is how you get it to your students. So there's a space code. All I have to do is give them this QR code, or I copy this link, put it in my Canvas course, and it's good to go. You can add it to a Canvas assignment. You can just put it as a link. And as students interact with it, this is where I'm going to be able to see their conversations and their threads. So it's very, very easy for me to take any of these ones that are pre-made and adapt them to my own personal needs. And if you're curious, what does it look like when students have started to interact with this? I'm actually going to go into that space where you all were doing your fun little dream vacation planner. Okay. So whenever you have students who are starting to interact with this, it's going to show some of their responses. So I get a really quick summary over here on how that's going. So we have a few people who want like an outdoorsy one or a beach. So I can see your dream vacation and, even get ideas for myself. So thank you for helping me plan future trips. But it does these little emojis here to see how the students are doing and how they're feeling. Now I'm going to toggle into a session where I had a few students, I told them to do this. They weren't doing it to be evil, who on purpose put in some responses that were going to be flagged. So I did a Harry Potter themed session one time and I had students figure out their Hogwarts house. We'll see if it loads. Maybe I should close some of my 9 million tabs. Woo, that looks great. Okay. And as students interacted with this, I had a few who were not happy with their Hogwarts house and I told them to tell the chat bot that they weren't happy with it. So it would flag their thread. But when it did that, it puts like a little alert emoji beside them. And flags their conversation. So here we go. We have some getting started. I think I might have closed that one where the student said they were going to use magic for evil ways. But it does little summaries off to the side. And if you're curious about how granular you can get with this, I can click into this and see the entire exchange with the students. And if someone enters in something that is concerning, it flags it right away. It also sends an email to you depending on the severity of what the student put in. We know that some of these students are going to AI tools and putting a lot of information about things that they're feeling and struggles. So that is stuff that is mandatory reporters sometimes we need to know about. And this will flag that so you can see it right away. So that's also something I think is helpful to share with the students, is that like all of the tech you interact with in BCSE, there's always a way for us to see what you're saying and what you're putting in. So just know that when you're interacting with these tools. So if you're ever wanting to invite more students to this, I can go to my Spaces menu. Sessions shows all of the different ones that I have active. So this is where I can get my code, my link, share it with people. If I need to pause this, so if we're done using this for now, or I need to have them pause it so that we can have a conversation, they're not still typing away on their device, I can pause it. It doesn't end the whole session, but they won't be able to go and interact with this until I've resumed it. And then over here, 3 dots button, I can download this. And then I can also add co-teachers to this so they can see the class data. And then I can also view the space prompt. So there's not a limit on participants anymore. So when we had the free version of this, the most people you could have in one was 150. But now that we have paid, you can have 200, 300, 400. I've seen hundreds upon thousands of people in these sessions. So there's not a limit that I know of in premium, but I will ask SchoolAi to verify that. But I have had 200 plus people in this one, and it's not maxed it out. So good question. All right. So if I'm curious about building a space, if I see one, I can remix it, launch it, customize it. If I want to make my own custom space, I can also just do that through the spaces menu and just click create. And then it's the same thing here. So I give it a title, I start building it out. I can upload files if I need to, standards, add my own picture here, or I can use an AI generated picture and add all of these details and things. And that's what I did with the Harry Potter one. That wasn't one that existed already. I built that out and said, make it 5 questions to figure out their Hogwarts house. Need to be less than X number of minutes. And that's where we went from there. And you always get to preview it. And then this is where you can get your link to launch it. All right. So lots and lots of ideas there. If you're curious about how these work or how teachers are using them, this dashboard here shows you a lot of data about it, but I have some examples in my slides. So I am going to pull these up again and then drop some links in the chat for you. And then also show the 2.0 interface in case anyone's curious about that. But I've seen lots of examples here. So elementary teachers, and now we have a few in here. I've seen teachers set this up to where it's a book explorer, so students can figure out their next book they're going to read, their next library book. They can even make short stories for students or help them, refine their writing in doing that. It can be a math tutor. Feedback for writing. We had some 5th grade teachers last year who used SchoolAi to help students draft a persuasive essay, and they were all different phases in the writing process, and it helped the students do that. We have special teachers in some of our elementary schools who are using this to help students research Indiana musicians, which is kind of cool. We've had other teachers use it for AP. There's a lot of AP ones that are already built up to help practice for the AP exam, so you can copy those. Some of our EL teachers, there's some really awesome ones that are language tutors for students. So if I'm thinking, if I'm an ML or EL teacher, honestly, this even goes for special education teachers too. You have students who are in all these different classes, who are in your guided resource, and they're all needing your assistance, but they're all working on different projects and topics. You could use some of these sidekicks or some of these subject-specific tutors to help students, so that if you're working with a few students one-on-one, the rest of the class doesn't have to wait for you to go over and help them. You give them access to an English tutor on here or a math tutor, and they start typing in some of the things they need help with, and it's almost a way to replicate yourself without you having to run around the room. So that's another idea. Math tutors, essay feedback. And then there's, again, I got ahead of myself. That was my next slide with some different examples on here. I've even seen some really awesome ways that school guidance counselors have used this to help students explore careers and to help them write scholarship essays and draft those, as well as explore careers in schools. So just some cool examples. There's even some that are built out that align with like WIDA standards and accessibility. So with that being said, do we have questions about the student-facing side of it? Before I show 2.0. All right. So if you're curious about what this new interface looks like in SchoolAI, I am going to toggle over to that. I know technically this session was only supposed to go till about 4:15. It's 4:17. So if you need to hop off and go do other things, I totally understand. But I did want to give everyone the opportunity to see 2.0, especially because I know we have some math teachers in the room, and there's some really cool pieces in 2.0 for math teachers. So if you're wanting to check that out, all I have to do is just click this blue button at the top of my screen, and it toggles over. And know that if you don't like 2.0 and you want to still get some familiarity with the classic interface, you can always toggle back to it. And I'll show you how to do that. But the look of this is a little bit different. So this is what the main screen looks like if you're in SchoolAI 2.0. It honestly looks almost identical to ChatGPT, if you ask me. And essentially, instead of having like a tools menu and assistance menu at the top, all of that happens right here. And this is called MySpace, which if you remember the old social media networking site, MySpace, kind of made me chuckle. We called it that. But this is really your space as the teacher. So this is only the teacher side of things. And this is where I can help it lesson plan. It can make documents for me. I can upload things, and then power-ups are some of these kind of cooler interactive pieces. So this is only in the 2.0 interface. But basically, if I was wanting to make a 5-question exit ticket for my geometry class about the Pythagorean theorem. I know I just spelled that wrong, so I'm sorry, everyone. All right, so it's going to have that similar look over here. This document, I can edit it. I saw the export options, so I can still, export it to Google Doc, PDF. I can change things if I need to. But some of the other cool pieces here in this new interface is that if I click this power up button, I have some pretty awesome things that are over here. So there's a chess game that we can do. There's a document creator, which is essentially what it made anyway. There's doodle boards, there's flashcards, there's a graphing calculator. So if I even typed in, some sample problems on here, it could even create that graphing calculator piece for me and show that on the graph. But all of these power-ups are basically interactive things that it now includes in this thread. And what's cool is that if you build a space in the new interface, I can add these interactive pieces to the space. So I can give students a chat bot where they're getting questions about the Pythagorean theorem and then give them access to a graphing calculator or other types of tools that are on here, like flashcards or mind maps or presentation creator, or even translate. So essentially this new interface in SchoolAi is giving you more than just a chat-based bot for your students to interact with. It's also adding in some additional bells and whistles. So with that being said, it's a really cool feature, and we are about at time. So excuse me 1 second. I did not want to cough on camera and hurt everyone's eardrums. So if you are curious about the 2.0, let me know. I actually have some of those slides built out in this deck, but I hid them because I didn't want them to be too overwhelming. But if you are curious about that, I want to tinker with it, I can give you just the 2.0 training deck and you can practice. The only thing I will say is that because it's in beta, there are times where it does load slowly, which you aren't going to see on the classic interface, and it can be a little buggy. But I do think if there is something that you really want to check out, go for it and let me know. But it's just an option there for you. So the new interface that we see that I just showed you will not go live until the springtime. But if that changes, I will absolutely let you know. And if you're ever curious about how do I toggle out of that on this left-hand toolbar, return to previous experience is how you can go back to the classic interface. It will stay in this view until you toggle back out of it. And then if you're wondering, how do I build a space in this new interface? It's all over here on the left-hand side. I can still discover all of the cool things that other teachers have made and can remix them for my own. I can still go and make my own space if I need to, like a student one, like the one I was just talking about, one that's aligned to space or to Pythagorean theorem. I can do that all right here. But instead of having those different prompts, I just type what I want it to do and it makes it. And I can still upload files and standards should I need to. And this is where I can add the power up for the students to use. Okay. So if you have questions, which I'm sure you do, please let me know. And if you're like, this is great, but I want some more time to practice with it, this is a tool that I think is best learned if you tinker with it. And that takes a little bit of time. So we are going to have sessions on the PD day, October 10th. They're about an hour or 50 minutes or so in length. So a lot of the PD day is happening at Columbus North High School. You'll get some more information about that today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow now since it's almost 4:30. But you'll essentially get to pick breakout sessions to go to. And I am leading 2 back-to-back sessions on SchoolAi. So that's a really good time for you to see some of this information over again, because some of this info will be repeat for you, but also time to practice and play, especially if you have a specific thing that you're wanting to learn about. So if it's the 2.0 interface, I can be there and answer some of your questions. It's also a way for you to learn about some of the others. So let me know if you have questions. I'm going to hang on to this Zoom and be here for a few more minutes, but that is what I have mapped out for you all today. I will upload this to the Indiana Learning Lab, and that's also where you can get professional growth points for being here today. I have the Zoom tracking your names and attendance so I can send it to you. But my email's on the screen. Thank you for joining today. I hope that you're excited about this tool. It has a lot of really awesome features. There's a Chrome extension that's going to be coming out soon that basically you can do all of the helpful, efficient things without even having to open SchoolAi on its own. But thank you. I appreciate you. I'll send out the slides and your PGPs. But if you have questions, stay on. Otherwise, you're free to go and enjoy another warm fall day that has summer weather, basically.
Bernie, I have a bit of an issue about this writing jokes for me.
I wondered if you would, how you would feel about that.
I love hearing them, but I'm just wondering now, are people going to start using this to feed me jokes now?
Maybe,
So
maybe. But your creativity cannot be replicated.
probably not. So, but still, it's just something kind of fun. And if they get enjoyment out of it and breaks up their day, I think that's most important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to take some time to learn some more, but if you need any, I won't be able to go through the PD trainings that you guys are having. I'm helping to move all the classrooms at Schmidt that morning. So if there's other resources I can look at, or if you need help in the schools to help teach some of this stuff, I'll be happy to help.
Awesome, definitely.
So I won't share them the joke writing skills. I'll let them for their own, but I will just let me know wherever I can help.
Absolutely.